Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on Outside with Jeff. Thought today would be a perfect day, being July 31st, to go over some things that we can be growing and planting in August for a fall harvest. We're here in Zone 6B. These planting suggestions should be fine for Zone 5, 6, and 7, but if you have any questions or any looking for more information, be sure to check out on Google and to verify the information that I'm providing here. But this information is all valid for Zone 6, and this is things that I've done in the past and I am doing this year, and I'd just like to go over with you. Not in particular varieties necessarily, but more types of vegetables that you can be growing and planting right now. Keep in mind with all these things, since it is coming up in August, it's usually a hotter month before summer starts winding down and we start getting some cooler evenings. You do want to make sure that you take extra steps to ensure that your seed bed stays moist, whether that be covering it up with cardboard, a tarp, or a germination frame like I've built in previous videos. That will help to ensure successful germination, because you want to make sure that those seed beds stay good and moist during that germination process. Let's get right into what you can be growing right now for the month of August. Okay, first I have up are beans. Now, most people think of beans as something that you plant in early summer, and that is true. I do plant these in early summer, but beans will produce all the way up until your first frost date. When I checked Google the other day, my first average frost date is about October 12th, and it's going to give me right about 70 planting days or 70 growing days until frost. Now that's the average. Things happen. There's outliers that happen. Sometimes we've went as far as November 1st, and sometimes it's as early as middle of September. So as a gardener, this is kind of a risk or something you need to keep in the back of your mind. But I get a lot of enjoyment out of experimenting in the garden. I hope you do too. So with these Kentucky Wonder Beans, it says 55 days to maturity. I have about 70 days left, so I have plenty of time if I needed to get a second planting or a third planting of beans in. So keep that in mind. Bush or pole beans, just want to make sure that the date to maturity falls before the date that your frost comes. And keep in mind, if you plant something and it doesn't get all the way to a harvestable crop, you can always dig that in and use it as a mulch to build the organic matter into your soil, or just compost it if things don't go as planned. So don't let possible failure keep you from trying it all. Next up's beets. I've got two varieties here. They're both from Everwild Farms. It's Bull's Blood beets and Cylindria beets. I have both of these planted in my garden. Next up, which I will not be planting this year, but this is the perfect time to plant, broccoli. This just happens to be from MI Gardener. It says that there's 80 days to maturity, but the thing with broccoli is these are frost. These will handle a frost no problem. Last year my broccoli plants grew all the way through winter, so you don't really have to be as concerned about that frost date when it comes to broccoli. This will give you plenty of time for the plants to get really mature, start forming a head, and then they'll continue growing slowly, but they'll continue growing a little bit through winter. So definitely planting some broccoli. Next up, definitely does well in the winter. We overwintered our cabbages through winter last year. This particular variety, Danish ballhead, 65 days to maturity, so you have plenty of time to get you some cabbage started in the garden, in your fall garden. Let's see, next up we have carrots. I planted an 8 by 4 foot bed of carrots the other day, it was last Saturday, so about a week ago, and most of them have germinated now. I did have to seed in a little bit of area where they hadn't germinated yet, but most of them have germinated. These have a really long day to maturity. Carrots generally do, but they overwinter extremely well. I prefer to plant my carrots in August and then grow them through the winter, as opposed to trying to plant them in the spring. I find myself, when you try to grow carrots in the spring to the summer, they're not nearly as sweet There's just something about when they get a frost on them, the carrots really sweeten up, so I definitely recommend you plant some carrots. Let's see, next we have cauliflower. Kind of the same thing as broccoli. They grow about the same. 65 days to maturity. Cauliflower will handle a light frost. The plants are very hardy. I definitely recommend you planting some cauliflower in your August fall planting garden. Something I'm trying for the first time this year, collards. Collards are known to be able to handle a light frost no problem. They mature rather quickly. This variety is 45 days, this variety is 55 days. I have Georgia Southern collards and Beets collards. So we have plenty of time to get those up and harvested. And then like I said, they are, a light frost shouldn't hurt them. And then, yeah, frost resistant. But once you start getting deeper freezes, they will die off. But a light frost won't hurt them, it'll actually sweeten them up a little bit. So I definitely recommend planting some of those in your fall garden. Ooh, one of my favorites for the fall garden are kale. There's just something about growing kale through the winter. Once again, you'll find this in a lot of your brassicas. When they get a touch of frost on them, it really just changes their flavor profile. These are my two favorite varieties of kale to grow, Red Russian and Lacinato, aka dinosaur kale. 75 days on dinosaur kale to full maturity, 50 days on Red Russian kale. However, that is full maturity. You will be able to pick on both of these prior to that 75 and 50 day window. Last year we overwintered these two things all the way until spring. So they made it through all our freezes, all our frost. We had 2 or 3 snowfalls and they did great. So if you're looking for something to carry through your winter garden, I definitely recommend your kales, Lacinato, and Red Russians. Homegrown kale is much superior, far superior than what you'll find in the supermarket. And do not let supermarket kale deter you from growing your own kale. It's completely different flavor profile. Usually what you'll find in the store is a curly kale. That is my least favorite kind of kale. Last year I grew 4 kales, blue curly, dwarf curly, Red Russian, and Lacinato, and both of the curly kales were my least favorite. The flavor was much better than what you get in a grocery store. But branch out, try some specialty kales. This year I actually planted some scarlet kale just to get a little more variety. I've already discarded that seed packet, so unfortunately I can't show that to you. But yeah, so this year in the fall garden I have Lacinato, Red Russian, and scarlet kale planted. Next up, and it's a new addition to this year's fall garden, kohlrabi. I have both white Vienna and purple Vienna planted. We went on the seed packet says that maturity date 55 to 60 days. These are frost hardy, so plenty of time once again to get them planted, get them going. I used my germination frames on all these items that I planted here recently: the beets, the kohlrabi, the kale, and the carrots, and I've got them all up and going. Another thing that people don't really think of at all in the fall are peas. Sugar snap peas, I always plant a spring crop. My daughters absolutely love spring peas. Save my own seeds as well. I did a video on that. I have not brought that seed inside yet. It's in my storage shed, continuing to dry out. And this is all I have left from what I saved last year. And then this seed here is 2 years old. I actually didn't plant any of it this year. I just planted my own seed. But I've got some Burpee Sugar Snap Pea, and I have some Haas Mr. Big Pea. 60 days maturity on these, 70 days maturity on these. They can handle a light frost, although if it's a heavy frost, it will kill them back. I will tell you, this is definitely something worth planting. Sugar snap peas from the garden are far superior to that than you'll get in a grocery store. You can plant these thick. I plant them about a ½ inch apart along my chain link fence, so I'm using space that would otherwise be wasted. I definitely recommend planting at least an 8-foot section for a family of 2 to 3, just because each plant's only going to give you, when you go to picking, you'll get 1 or 2 pods per plant. and you want to make sure you have enough planted to really get a sizable harvest so that you can enjoy them for fresh eating, salads, cooking, whatever you want to do. And then don't forget to save your own seed, because once you buy seed the first time, then you'll have seed forever, as long as you don't experience a crop failure or you decide to stop saving your own seed. The next thing that I've got planted, and I've had this planted since the 1st of March, and I don't need to replant it because those original plants are still going strong. I'm still getting cuttings. Swiss chard. If you've never grown Swiss chard, you've thought about growing Swiss chard, August is an excellent time to get you a planting started. These are not frost hardy, so your first frost, these will, they'll get killed, they'll get super soft, and you're going to have to get them out of the garden. But Swiss chards, 58 days to maturity, you'll be able, that's when the plants are going to be, you know, about this tall. You can harvest leaves well before that. I would say if you planted these today, you can start harvesting it by day 35 or 40. Shouldn't be a problem. What I like to do, how I do my Swiss chards, my beds are 4 foot wide. So we'll say, you know, we'll just use this size for example. We'll just say it's this wide. What I do is I'll take about a 1 foot strip and I'll seed them pretty thick. I'll do within that 1 foot strip, I'll do 2 to 3 rows spaced 4 inches apart, and I'll put the seed about every 3 inches apart. So I plant mine pretty thick, and what that does is it'll get you a really thick stand. It'll help keep the weed pressure down, and it'll help as they grow up, it'll help keep that soil moist so you want the waters often. I have 2 1 foot by 4 foot strips of these Swiss chard in my bed, and these are amazing. I don't worry if a few leaves get holes in them or whatnot. I have a big enough section. I can easily go out there, and when I harvest, I can find enough really nice, perfect looking leaves to take care of our meal plans, our salads. We use these as buns for hamburgers, for chicken. It's just an excellent, we use this on our tacos instead of buying lettuce from the store. I have only bought 1 bag of lettuce from the store in the past 10 months, and that was, that I can remember, that was a Caesar salad kit. So the Swiss chard, between it and the kale, you won't have to buy salad kits anymore unless you're just in a pinch and you need to. We've bought them a couple times to take to parties and whatnot, but as far as for our own home consumption, plant you a few feet of ruby Swiss chard, or they have a rainbow Swiss chard also, and plant you some kale, and you'll be good on your salad needs all through the year. Swiss chard is something that you can grow from April, or from about mid-March or April up until your first frost, which in my case is middle of October. Kale, I'd say you can grow that about 10 months out of the year, so you can basically take care of all your salad needs. The last one I have here that I actually have seeds on hand for are zucchini. A lot of people think, oh, zucchini, you plant that as soon as you can plant early in the year, and then, you know, they die off, you get bug pressure, you get disease pressure, and then you just forget about it. Well, I do succession plantings of my zucchinis. So my first zucchinis this year I planted like the last week of April. You know, they started producing, I think June 12th was my first time I picked a couple zucchini. So I planted 3 plants the end of April. A month and a half later I was picking zucchini, and then I planted 3 more plants the end of May, and I just picked off of them for the first time about a week and a half ago. So we'll say like July 20th. So about, let's see, I would say about 45 days. Seed packet, yep, it says 45 days on it. You can expect to get a harvest. What I say earlier, we've got about 70 days until frost. So go ahead and get you some zucchini planted. One thing is, usually in the fall, your pest pressure is not as heavy. So if you have problems growing zucchini early in the year because of pest pressure, squash bugs, etc., definitely try to do you a fall planting. Lots of people get tired of zucchini. However, I really enjoy eating zucchini year round. You pick them before they get too mature, and then you don't have to worry about large seeds. I pick my zucchini small and tender. I don't try to get the big zucchini. I don't like them big and tough. I like them, you know, once I see them out there about 3 or 4 inches long, I'll keep a close eye on them, and then once they get about 7 or 8 inches long, I'm out there picking them. I try to pick them about the size you'd find in a grocery store. I don't like them to get large and out of hand. So there are a few other things that you can plant in August. I'm sure I've left some things out. These are just the things that I plant here for our fall garden. There's also mustards, turnips, things of that nature, which for me, those are things that I'll be planting in September. So we'll be going over that later. Some of these things here you can still plant in September as well, so they might be duplicated on future videos. But as far as if you're looking at what you could plant right now in August, I would say any of these could be planted anytime between now and the 3rd week of August. Past the 3rd week of August, there might be a few things that it's starting to get pretty close as far as your frost date, and you might not be able to get them in a harvest in time. But yeah, give it a shot. It's definitely, I like to keep things growing in my garden. I don't like to let the ground just be bare. It just works out better for me. I feel like the garden stays healthier if I have things growing in it. So thanks for staying through and watching the end of this video. Greatly appreciate everybody who subscribed to this channel. And have a great day from my garden to yours. Thank you.